Hello and welcome to today's video, where we're going to explore the fascinating world of floating cities. Have you ever imagined living in a city that floats on water? Well, this is no longer a dream but a reality that exists today. Floating cities are designed to be self-sufficient communities that can house thousands of people, providing them with all the amenities and facilities they need to thrive. In this video, we're going to take a closer look at how these incredible structures are built. Floating cities are essentially cities that are built on water. They are designed to be completely self-sufficient and sustainable, generating their own power, collecting their own water, and processing their own waste. The concept of floating cities has been around for centuries, with examples from ancient Egypt, China, and Japan. In modern times, the idea of floating cities has gained renewed interest as a solution to some of the challenges we face today, including rising sea levels and overcrowding in urban areas. The idea is that by building cities on water, we can create more space for people to live, work, and play, while also being more sustainable and resilient. The history of floating cities. As mentioned earlier, floating cities have been around for centuries. The ancient Egyptians, for example, built floating temples that could travel up and down the Nile River. The Chinese also built floating cities, known as water towns, that were designed to be resistant to floods and other natural disasters. In Japan, there is a long history of building floating communities, known as fishing villages. These were built on stilts and were designed to withstand the unpredictable ocean conditions. Today, Japan is still a leader in floating city technology, with several projects underway, including the Ocean Spiral and the Green Float. Modern floating cities. Today, modern technology has allowed us to take the concept of floating cities to a whole new level. We now have the ability to build enormous, self-sustaining cities that can float on water. These cities are designed to be completely self-sufficient, generating their own power, collecting their own water, and processing their own waste. One of the most famous examples of a modern floating city is the Freedom Ship. This enormous vessel is designed to be a floating city, with everything from schools and hospitals to shopping centers and sports facilities. The Freedom Ship is expected to be able to house up to 50,000 people at a time. Another example is the Seasteading Institute, which is a non-profit organization that is dedicated to promoting the concept of floating cities. The Seasteading Institute is working on several projects, including a floating city that will be built off the coast of French Polynesia. How are floating cities built? Now, let's get into the details of how floating cities are built. Building a floating city involves a multi-step process that typically begins with extensive planning and design. The architects, engineers, and other specialists working on the project need to determine the best approach for constructing the floating city based on its intended use, location, and environmental factors. Once the planning and design phase is complete, the actual construction of the floating city can begin. The first step is typically to prepare the site where the floating city will be built. This may involve dredging the water to create a level foundation or installing pilings or anchors to stabilize the structure. The platform that forms the foundation of the floating city is then constructed. This platform can be made of steel, concrete, or a series of pontoons or barges that are joined together. The platform needs to be sturdy enough to support the weight of the superstructure that will be built on top of it, as well as any additional systems and infrastructure that will be installed. The next step is to construct the superstructure of the floating city. This typically involves building a series of buildings or structures on top of the platform. The superstructure may include homes, businesses, public spaces, and other facilities necessary for a self-sufficient community. Once the superstructure is in place, various systems must be installed to ensure that the floating city is fully functional and self-sufficient. This includes the installation of water and waste management systems, power systems, and other essential infrastructure. Finally, the various components of the floating city are assembled and launched into the water. This can involve towing the platform and superstructure to their final location, or assembling the structure in sections and then joining them together on site. The assembly and launch process is a crucial step, as it ensures that the floating city is stable and can withstand the forces of the water. Throughout the construction process, specialized equipment and skills are required to ensure that the floating city is safe and functional. This includes welding, cutting, and drilling equipment, as well as specialized materials that are resistant to corrosion and water damage. Building a floating city is a complex and challenging process that requires careful planning, design, and execution. However, with the right expertise and equipment, it is possible to create a self-sufficient, sustainable community that can withstand the forces of the water and provide a unique and exciting way of life for its residents. Benefits of floating cities. There are many benefits to living in a floating city. For one, these cities provide a way to address some of the challenges that we face today. Additionally, floating cities can be designed to be self-sufficient, generating their own power and collecting their own water, which can help reduce our dependence on fossil fuels and other non-renewable resources. Floating cities can also be designed to be more resilient to natural disasters, such as hurricanes and floods. Because they are built to float on water, they are less vulnerable to damage from these types of events. Finally, living in a floating city can provide a unique and exciting lifestyle, with opportunities for water-based activities such as fishing, boating, and swimming. In conclusion, floating cities are a fascinating concept that has captured the imaginations of people around the world. These self-sufficient communities offer a way to address some of the challenges that we face today, while also providing a unique and exciting way of life. We hope that you've enjoyed learning more about floating cities and the incredible engineering that goes into building them. Thank you for taking the time to learn about the fascinating topic of building floating cities. If you enjoyed this video and want to stay up to date on our latest content, be sure to hit the subscribe button and turn on notifications.